Greetings ladies and gentlefish, and in this video I'm going to bring you a quick review of this thing. T1E6, American Tier 2 Premium Light Tank. Nice low tier machine. Now this is not something that you can buy from the tech tree. It was given out as a gift New Year's 2013. So it's coming up a year and a half old now. It does occasionally crop up in strange, expensive, special gift packages thing in the gift shop. You don't tend to buy those packages specifically for this, but you know, some of them throw this in. But I just wanted to go through this anyway because it's not a machine you see that much, and a lot of people, when they got this, they just sold it for the extra garage slot. But I actually think this is quite an interesting little machine. So, what do we have? Well, if we have a quick look at the stats, 160 hit points, pretty much par for the course for a tier 2 light tank. It has a good power to weight ratio though. It weighs less than 10 tons and has a 240 odd horsepower engine, which means its specific power to weight ratio is about 27 horsepower per ton, which means this accelerates fairly well. The traverse speed of 42 degrees means that it turns quite well, although it does tend to bleed off speed in the turns. The view range at 260 is rubbish, the signal range at 325 is rubbish, and the armour is not even worth mentioning. So what you have is a lightly armoured light tank that's not slow. It's not the fastest machine, but it's definitely not slow, with a terrible view range and signal range. So this is not a scout. I mean, you're down here at tier 2. Light tanks are the norm, they are your generic combat tanks, but this is definitely not a scout. It's also not a frontline brawler. It doesn't have the armour for it, and the gun doesn't have the stopping power, which brings us on to the gun. Here you go. 37mm semi-automatic. Now, the compatible vehicles, apparently it's only fitted on the T1E6, but a very similar gun is fitted to some of the tier 1 and 2 American light and medium tanks. And what do we have? Well, it's a 37mm gun, and it's a magazine loaded gun, so it's an auto loader. You get 5 shells in the magazine. It takes half a second to reload shots within that magazine, so you can empty the clip in 2 seconds, and the magazine reloads in 5 seconds, which is quite fast. The damage is 30, the penetration is 33, i.e. garbage. The accuracy or dispersion is 0.51 at 100 meters, which is also bad, but the aiming time is good at 1.9 seconds. But, while the aiming time is good, it is considerably longer than the reload time between shells in the magazine. So, I mean, this is a tier 1 gun. It has 150 average burst damage, 5 shots, 30 damage per shot. Which, if you look at the T1E6's own health, you can see it can cripple itself with 1 magazine. With average damage rolls, it won't kill itself, but it can cripple itself. If we have a look at another tier 2 light tank, the Cruiser, 150 health. The Light 6C, 150 health. So it can, generally speaking, kill another tier 2 light tank with 1 clip of ammunition. And this kind of informs how you end up using this tank. You tend to try and get close and personal because the gun's not very accurate and the penetration is terrible and falls off with range very quickly. So you want to be close, but you want to be in the flank of them. You want to be behind them, pumping shots into them. Unload your magazine or do enough to take out your target and pull back and reload. That's what I would advise. That sort of playstyle. It is quite a good training machine for things like the AMX-12T, the higher tier autoloaders, you know, in particular the French. And it's not an easy tank to play, but I do find it can actually be kind of rewarding. And I mean, just for example, looking at the 5 modules that it has, I mean, this is obviously a premium tank, so there's no upgrades available for it or anything. It comes with what it comes with. You can see it's got a tier 1 gun, turret and suspension, tier 2 radio and a tier 4 engine, and that really does show when you play it. And it has, for tier 2, it has a very distinctive playing style, and as I say, it's a bit like some of the higher tier autoloaders. and it's quite rewarding, and I do actually, originally I didn't like this and I was considering selling it, but I'm glad I didn't, because I do actually find it kind of rewarding to play. So, crew skills. Well, you'll notice I don't yet have a crew in it. Why? Well, it's a premium tank, so I can just shove in the crew from, well, in this case, the crew from my steward. There we go, 3 of the crew members. The steward has 5 crew members, but there are 3 of them. So there's no point giving this tank a particular crew, so you just shove in whatever crew you have for your American light tank. As for equipment, well, you can see I've got improved vents. I mean, it's a tier 2. You don't necessarily have to even bother with equipment at all, let's be honest. I mean, they're cheap and cheerful machines, they don't exactly take much to repair, you know. But I've given it vents. Other pieces of equipment, well, at tier 2 you have quite a limited selection. Spool liner is pointless. Camo net, not a bad idea. Binos, not a terrible idea, trying to increase that view range a bit. Optics, probably not worth it. Really not worth it. It's 500,000 credits to take your view range from 260 to 286. I really wouldn't bother. Enhanced gun laying drive to make it aim a little bit faster, you could, but it's already got a good aiming time. I don't think you're really going to notice that much of a difference, and it's 500,000 credits. Toolbox, you could. What I do is just have the vents on it, and then the 2 spare slots I whack in a binocular telescope and a camo net that I just have communally floating around. Consumables, this is tier 2. I really wouldn't bother with consumables. If you really want to, standard ones will do. You could, I suppose, invest in some gasoline to make it move that little bit faster, but the thing with this is that you're guaranteeing spending, 5,000 credits, or if you want the premium one, 20,000 credits every match. You could give it a case of cola, but it's a similar deal. It's a tier 2, it's not really worth it. I wouldn't bother. You can see with my ammo loadout, I haven't bothered with high explosive because the high explosive ammo on this thing is garbage. If we just go back to the gun itself and look at the average values, 19 pen and 36 damage. You get an extra 6 damage. Oh, woo. So I have mostly armor piercing, but I have 2 clips of APCR because, alright, this thing gets into tier 3 games like any other, or like most other tier 2 tanks, but even within tier 2 there are machines that this will struggle to penetrate. So, a little bit of APCR doesn't hurt. I don't completely spam it because it would be incredibly expensive, and this is a tier 1 gun. If you just fire the armor piercing, it costs nothing. But I do have a bit of APCR. No point talking about the armor, it's garbage, and no point talking about the grind. There isn't one, this is a premium machine. So I guess we'll just go straight into a game. So here we are with our game. We're on Ensk, which is a comparatively small map, and one of the what you really want to do as soon as you get into a game with this is look at the enemy team and see which machines on the enemy team you really are going to struggle to penetrate and you want to avoid. And immediately we can see this is a tier 3 game, which means if we're engaging them frontally, we're going to struggle to penetrate most of them. We really need to get around the flanks and behind them, but we want to pay particular attention to things like T-18s, Panzer 1Cs, cruisers, because depending on what gun they've got, T-82s, depending on what gun they've got, they can kill us in one shot, or they can just unload their autocannon into us and blitz us, or whatever. So, initially I was pondering going onto the field. This is quite a mobile machine, but then I thought, no, why am I doing that? This thing likes close range engagements where you can just pull around a corner, unload into someone and pull back, so we're going to go into the city. Into the town. And I really do think this thing does like close range engagements, so bad shots, not even going to bother. I don't want to sit there out in the open. There's another T1E6. You don't see them that often, but they do turn up every now and then. Right, now, Cruiser 4. Not renowned for having amazing armour, but there we go, shot bounced, and I'm just going to unload into him, and there we go. Leave him on low health. I didn't bother aiming all those shots carefully, I just wanted to unload my magazine and pull back, so that I didn't take return fire. So I left him on very low health and someone killed him. I probably should have taken those shots, but I was waiting for the gun to aim. Never mind. And the team's winning 3-2, which is okay. Nope, I'm not going to be able to get shots over there. I'm just considering my options at the moment. I really want to go around and nail that Panzerjäger, but I'm worried about taking shots in the flank for my trouble. Eventually I get a bit bored and oh, there we go, he's making himself an easy target. There we go. So we unload into him, and whilst we didn't do all of his health in damage, that D1 I think it was put a shot in to help, you can see that we just killed him very, very quickly indeed, and then reloaded the magazine, which didn't take long either. T1E6, how are you today, sir? You're dead, that's how you are. There we go, kill number 2. T82, very dangerous machine. I get a bit lucky here, the T82 does not have the howitzer. Oh, now I wanted to, I didn't fire, I stopped firing there because I thought my ally in the D1 was going to pull across me. As it was, he died just before he'd have been able to, but I didn't want to kill him. So I could have had that kill, but I didn't get it. Now, Panzer 1C, very dangerous. It's got that Mauser machine gun of death that can just shred us. And his armour from the front, in fact from a lot of angles, is actually quite tricky for us to penetrate. So, and Marder just died right in front of him, so he now has cover. And, oh, this looks bad. I was convinced I was going to die just there. Oh, we just miss and bounce and ugh. But we managed to get right the way around him. He's in a German tank, his turret traverse isn't great, and we eventually managed to kill him. Now, we lost a good chunk of health in the process, and we did have some assistance there. But, you know, we'll take what we can get. T18, wait for it to aim just a little bit, there we go, unload into the guy. And you can see, even on his rear, he was moving, he was angled, 3 of the shots of 5 bounced. So you really do have to be careful with this gun. Panzer 38T. There we go, we nail him. Oh good lord, T18. Refill the clip. Now, he doesn't have the howitzer. At the bottom, no, someone else gets him, fine. But he does put a shot into us, putting us on 51 health. And now we're down to it. There's 3 of us left and 2 of them left. T18 nails their T46, so it's just an LTP left. Now, LTP was another gift tank. It's a Russian tier 3 light tank. But it has about 30-35mm of frontal armour and it's sloped. So we're not going to penetrate his front. Basically we want to flank him. I'm just waiting for this T18 to move forward, and I'm going to support him. Because you don't want to be the one leading the charge in this thing. You are supporting other people while the enemies are distracted shooting your friends. You go round and you assassinate them. Now that may sound like a very selfish or mercenary playstyle, but if you are going to play in an autoloader, then a lot of the time that's what you are looking to do, and there he is. Now I've decided at some point, I can't remember if it's I think I've already decided at this point that I'm going to load my APCR clip, well, one of my APCR clips. Very simply because with APCR, my penetration goes from 33, there we go, I'm loading it now, to 53. Which may not sound like a huge jump, but it gives me a much better chance of penetrating him. And I'm asking if my artillery is ready. Okay, he's reloading at the moment, that's fine. Because I think my artillery is my best chance of nailing this guy. I'll spot him, artillery bags him. That's what I'm expecting to happen. So, it should have been enough time for artillery to reload by now. He was only taking 12 seconds to do it. Yep, he's ready. Now, the LTP didn't seem particularly keen to move from his spot, which indicates to me he's an inexperienced player, and there he is. So, we're going to wait for it to aim. Miss. Trying to shoot him under the tracks, like that. And he's not on a great amount of health. And one more. Nah, fair enough. So we've only got one clip of APCR left, and we're not going to fire it speculatively like we did the previous one. We're just going to take advantage of this conveniently placed pile of rubble. Now I'm sitting in their base. If this LTP just sits there and doesn't do anything, I'm going to capture their base and we're going to win. And if this LTP wants to do anything about me, he can't just shoot me from where he is, because A, there's train carriages in the way, and B, I'm behind a load of rubble. He has to come round like this to get me. And there's one shot, and there's two shots, and there's three shots, and he's dead. And there we go. 5 kills, over 500 damage, which for tier 2 is not too shabby. You know, it's of the order of 3 times my own health. And yes, I fired 8 APCR rounds, but I still made a healthy profit on this. And it was a very tense game, and it was a lot of fun. So, just bring up some post-game stats, and then we'll go back to the garage. So what are my overall thoughts on this machine? Well, it's actually kind of good fun to play sometimes. It can be frustrating, and sometimes you'll just do very badly in it. But it can also be a very rewarding machine to play, and as I say, I think it's good practice for some of the higher tier tanks. It's definitely not an easy tank to play, and it's certainly not the sort of tank someone's going to use if all they're interested in is padding their own stats, but I think it can be good fun and it can be rewarding, and I suppose the most telling thing to say about it is that I'm glad I kept it when I was given it and I didn't sell it, and so far I have played some games in it. I have so far played, I'm being really incompetent finding it, where are we? There we go. I've played 113 games in this, so, you know, it can't be that bad. I do enjoy it. Now, my stats in it aren't the best, and that's partly because it's taken me some time to get used to it, I'll be honest, and I think I've only comparatively recently gotten the hang of it. But I do think it's good fun. Would I recommend you buy this if it comes up in a kind of special offer? It really depends what the deal is. Most of the time, as I say, you're buying these things for other stuff. You're not really buying it specifically for the tier 2 light tank that they throw in. And they're often quite expensive bundles, so I can't honestly say I'd recommend people going and getting it. But if you've got this thing lying around in your garage from Christmas 2012, New Year 2013, and you haven't played it in a while, then, you know, maybe you might want to dust it off and give it a go, because it can be a lot of fun, I think. So thank you for listening to my ramblings. I hope you guys found it enjoyable, maybe even vaguely informative, and I will catch you in another video and wish you happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao ciao.